every single person that we're talking about in this administration is in that position that they're in currently because they've ass-kissed Donald Trump. There's not a single person that's in that position due to competence. They're all there for loyalty. That's always been the case since day one. We already know that. That's right. A second Trump affiliate has been hit. A second plane has hit the Trump Towers. Pamela Joe Bondi, an American attorney and politician who served, and I say served, as the 87th United States Attorney General from the year 2025 to the year 2026, a member of the Republican Party as the 37th Attorney General of Florida, has now been fired. That's right. Ding dong. The witch is gone. Pamela Joe Bondi. R.I.P. Bozo, Pack Watch. You already know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Throw a goddamn party. Spam to your heart's desire. That is now the second scalp of the Trump administration. That's right, it's the second scalp after Kirsty Bodacious Gnome. After Kirsty Gnome was kicked off and demoted from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary position, a second girl boss has been taken out by the Trump administration. And here we are, misogynistically celebrating another fascist being dethroned, only to be replaced by yet another fascist regardless. Bye-bye, Bondi. Bye-bye. That's right, folks. All right. So Pack Watch, RIP Bozo, you already know what it is. You already know what's up. Blast off is imminent as well. Let the people know we're live. Let the people know we're alive. Pamela Joe Bondi. Didn't know her middle name was Joe, by the way. Didn't know her name was, or her middle name was Joe. That's a strange middle name to have. But very, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Very white trash when you think about it. Which is, precisely what she is, or dare I say, was. Well, I guess she still is white trash, right? We finally getting close to 5 years. What? You predicted this too? What? Predicted? Oh, with Abdul. I'm a lawyer now, so obviously... that's how it works. When you go and speak to a law school, that means you have an honorary JD, not dissimilar to JD Vance, as a matter of fact. So I'm a lawyer now. And as a lawyer, I, if Donald Trump calls me up, I'll do it. I will become the next attorney general, right? Yeah, I got my Juris Doctorate. It's not a big deal. It's called a Doctor of Law. In not Espanol, but Latin, which is kind of like Espanol. Okay. And, yeah, honorary JD Jorkin the Peanuts, if you want. You look great in that suit. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're more qualified than Alina Habba. How dare you? How dare you come after my RGB queen, Alina Habba? You look like you're about to go sell peptides in that suit, bro. Take that shit off, Lamau. Dude, I swear to God, anytime I do anything that's a little bit different, anytime I do anything at all, there's going to be chatters in here being like, nah, dog, put a t-shirt on, bro. Who the fuck do you think you are? Oh, look at this big guy. Look at this, bro. SpongeBob big guy, dude. SpongeBob big guy. Pants okay. Who the hell do you think you are, man? Why are you trying to be dapper, dude? You forgot about your fucking day ones, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just like anytime I do anything, can't do shit with this goddamn community, bro. I swear to God. Swear to God, there's always going to be somebody being like, wow, dude, you don't look like Dr. Jihad anymore. I don't like it. Like, quick, bro, get the job before they realize your credentials, what your credentials are. Bro, they don't know me as they don't know that I have a doctorate in both. I have a PhD in racism. I now have a JD, right? I'm a lawyer now. And also I have an MD. I'm Dr. Jihad, right? I wear many clothes, and I have many specialties, right? I can do it all. So put me in, coach. Put me in. I will be your guy. I will do the attorney general job, honestly. Don't worry about that, but do check in with Derek Guy. What? Yeah, go talk to the law school in bare feet like Rick Rubin. Yeah. Hassan the polymath. Yeah, I double majored in jihad and racism, right? Yeah, I'm a little bit like a famous artist of the adult variety, Johnny Sins. I'm the Johnny Sins of politics. I'm a real technical player, you know, multi-tool. Could play whichever role you need me to play. I got the expertise. With minors in anti-Semitism and electrical dog engineering. Electrical dog engineering, yeah. Who will replace her? My money's on Cat Turd. That's awesome. Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. The Trump administration is gonna go, let's do it. Let's just go YOLO. Let's just go crazy mode. Let's just put Cat Turd in there, you know? Let's swap him in. Fuck it. No tomorrow. Fuck it. We ball type shit. But yeah, another pressure valve has been released. Obviously, we'll be talking about that. But it's you know, pretty. I hope everyone's aware of exactly what's going on, right? Like Trump administration is like responsive to the pressures, and there's always going to be a fall guy. And I told you that eventually the fall guy would be, you know, the person overseeing, the person that was the most televised individual on whatever that related incident was. For the Department of Homeland Security, it was Greg Bovino and Kirstie Noem. And they got axed for that reason. And for the Epstein files and the mishandling of the Epstein files, it's actually Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. But Kash Patel is seemingly standing strong, right? So I wonder what will happen for the economy. I wonder who will get the axe for the economy, and I wonder who will get the axe for the military quagmire that we found ourselves in the Strait of Hormuz as we have been attacking the state of Iran. You look like Leto Atreides when you wear your suits, especially the high-collared ones. Now all you need is a Bene Gesserit baddie. Yeah. My Bene Gesserit baddie is obviously is obviously going to be Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I'm in her hood right now. Anyway, this is literally her place, right? This is swag. Okay. CNN changed you? Yeah. I decided to put the suit on so they no longer call me anti-Semitic. I also decided to obviously say I'm Israel high and that you know, Israel has a right to exist. Israel has a right to defend itself. You know, that type of shit. Also, you know, we can't allow a scary religious country to have nuclear arsenals unless it's Israel, in which case it's good that they have nukes, and also it's good that they're invading Lebanon and killing people, displacing millions, doing Nakba after Nakba, basically. I think all of those things are totally moral and totally good. Now, Hassan, be so for real right now. How are you using swag in the big 226? That's crazy. Yeah, we must replace oxygen with swag. Okay, I'm 34 years old. You have to understand. There's gonna be some limitations in my language. Okay, I don't know what the kids are using nowadays. I only know what I'm using as far as my language, which is Am Israel Chai. Israel has a right to defend itself, and um numerous things of that order, obviously. Yeah, we're calling the Strait of Hormuz the Strait of Trump. You already know. Say aura. I mean, I do have aura. Aura. Yeah, there's some good news coming out of Michigan. John Eldenring says, I want to thank the establishment DNC Hacks for giving Abdul Press this last week. Our county's in-person volunteer meeting attendance doubled today. So, hell yeah. Hopefully, I want to see more of that. I want to see more Michigander Hasanabi heads rising up and helping out Abdul. This is a big race. Okay, this is going to be a major race. I mean, it's a Senate race, right? It's huge. You have to remember, um, that's crazy. Yeah, you have to remember Kirsty Noem's husband's bazongas. That's what I meant. All right, that's what you got to remember. And yes, I did an interview with Aaron Regenberg for the New Republic, and he wrote this very thoughtful piece on. We had an interview, and he wrote a very thoughtful piece on my history of combating anti-Semitism while also being an anti-Zionist. Despite the controversy or because of it, millions of people turned to Piker for their news. As evidence of his draw, El Sayed's campaign told me that they received more signups by far for their rally with Piker than any of their other events. Yeah. Jacobin defended you on top of the New Republic piece. Hell yeah. Dems claim to want a Hassan Piker, then try to cancel him. Now, I do think, like I said already, there's not really a lot of motion on this stuff. Like back in the day, this could have been a much more serious incident, right? This would actually have some impact. Nowadays, the impact actually backfires on the organizations, especially because most people understand, one, Israel is a 90-10 issue at this point, favoring us, and two, people hate cancel culture, and three, perhaps most importantly, people understand that you're quote mining and you're cynically trying to present someone as like an irrational person because you disagree with the morality. You disagree with the argument, and you can't actually have that argument. You can't actually have a conversation on moral grounds, on moral terms, because Israel's indefensible. So you just try to do this shit smearing, and it doesn't work. The tent already includes Piker. Usama Andrabi, a spokesperson for the progressive group Justice Democrats, told me when asked about Third Way's response to Piker, I think the question is actually whether our tent should continue to be big enough for a very vocal minority of corporatists and right-wing hawks who are still trying to keep this party under the grips of corporate interests and war hawk lobbies like AIPAC. Yeah. That's it. And it's really interesting. Bulwark did an article on this, and like Third Way, like Bulwark is, obviously a right-wing operation, but, even they are basically saying to Third Way, you have to fuck all the way off. It's very interesting to see. Because, like, remember, Bulwark is mostly comprised of it's Bill Kristol's operation, right? Bill Kristol is like the OG neocon who turned into like a woke warrior, kind of. He was, one of the godfathers, the two godfathers of the neocon movement, right? The American Warhawk conservative movement that basically was responsible for the global war on terror, and a lot of these guys are like Bush era never Trumpers now. They hate Donald Trump. They've become Democrats. Even then, though, they should be perfectly aligned with Third Way, and yet for some reason they're actually criticizing Third Way. Why are you saying donate blood? There's always a guy. I'll be talking about something random, and like there will be a guy in here that'll be like, tell people to donate blood. Donate blood. Okay, guys, donate blood, please. It's just so random, always. Anyway, but basically what happened. What is this shit smear blowback? This is Hassan Piker, curious TikToker, recently found out. What is this? I mean, okay, we don't have to look at every single video out there. Anyway, listen. So Bulwark wrote this article, right? This is like now, I don't know, day 10 of not talking about Iran for, third way style, far right, corporatist Democrats that want to turn back the clock and make sure that the Democratic Party still represents the exact same politics that caused the Democrats to lose to Donald Trump in 2024 and also in 2016. Like they're so actively doing it. And it's gotten so annoying and so frustrating that even people like unlikely bedfellows are coming out in defense of someone like myself. So to third way's critics, this was nothing short of abject hypocrisy, a group applying litmus tests to a liberal candidate after demanding that liberal groups drop the litmus test they placed on mainstream candidates. Because if you remember Third Way and also, the Abundist movement, they got together, they congregated, they did this whole thing a couple months prior. Matt Iglesias was there, all the stars of DC, all the centrist stars of the Democratic Party were there. And one of the big takeaways from that conference was what cooked Kamala Harris was the ACLU questionnaire that she answered, right? They were like, oh, Kamala Harris answered the ACLU questionnaire where they asked her about, transgender bottom surgeries for undocumented Guatemalans in concentration camps. And she said they should still be able to get these surgeries, right? And that was such a big fixture of what the right-wing Democrats claimed was the reason why Kamala Harris lost. I've talked about this extensively. This would be a non-issue if the Democrats actually presented economic populism as an alternative. They just said they offered things to the working class and defined themselves with policies that people actually identify with, people actually want, right? This would never be a conversation. It's not a conversation with Zoran, for example, who is also pro-trans. It's not a conversation with Graham Plattner, for example, right? So, having said that, the takeaway from the third way guys was Democrats need to stop doing questionnaires. They need to stop responding to these groups, right? Sunrise Movement, DSA, ACLU, all of these woke groups. So third way now is also becoming the groups once again, because it always was one of the groups, right? This is so clearly third way, riling people up in a way that is so disingenuous, said Amanda Littman, the co-founder of Run for Something, a progressive group that recruits and trains first-time candidates. She emphasized that part of politics is having to deal with people who say crazy things you don't agree with, and you have to work with them anyway. Who's doing the scolding here, she asked. I thought we weren't supposed to be canceling anyone anymore. For third way, there's nothing inconsistent about its approach. In an interview, Cowan told me he draws a distinction between demanding policy purity from a candidate and moral clarity. He argued that if Piker had said offensive things about a minority group other than Jews, Democrats wouldn't have hesitated to shun him. For El Sayed to rally with Piker, he said, is as if George Bush had campaigned with David Duke instead of denouncing the KKK leader. Most significant, which by the way is an insane statement, right? Because it's just objectively untrue. It's just, comparing me in any way, shape, or form to David Duke is psychotic. I mean, think about it this way. Between me and David Duke, who do you guys think is... Between me and third way, whose worldview is closer to David Duke's? The right-wing, pro-war Democratic consulting firm that is constantly telling Democrats to lean closer and closer to the Republican far-right neocon party in order to win votes, or the guy who is an anti-fascist, anti-racist, anti-Zionist? Who do you think is closer? to David Duke. Apparently, David Duke endorsed Kamala Harris last election, is what people are saying. But in any case, for third way, there's nothing, because most significantly, Cowen made it clear he'd rather accept some electoral risk than see the party show flexibility on this front. If people are really arguing that the price of winning is becoming like a bigoted misogynist like Hassan Piker, then I'll take not winning, Cowen told me. What is the point of reviving the Democratic Party so it can compete in an age of right-wing populism if the price of that is that you mainstream bigoted anti-American misogynistic votes? They're just like throwing words into the pile too. Tomorrow they'll call me racist, right? Like they're trying to concoct a figure. Slowly but surely, they're trying to concoct a figure that is far removed from who I actually am and what I represent. The problem for them, of course, is that I have a significantly larger platform, and my platform is communicating my political worldview, my ideals, and therefore they're going to have a much harder time cutting across that noise because they have to rely on other outlets. They don't have a steady flow of communication out there. They just have to give quotes to pliant outlets like the Wall Street Journal and then like try to muster up some controversy, which will then inevitably cause eyeballs to come my way for people to really figure out what I'm really about. And when they do that, they realize, oh, this is all bullshit. So it doesn't really work. It's an unnecessary smear campaign. It's really stupid. They're doing it on a 90-10 issue in a way that's very transparent, in a way that people are actually really frustrated with, right? Like they've heard this, they've seen this so much. I'm closer to most people's worldview than they are. And that's it. So, Ned Lemont and JB Pritzker have a bet on the Final Four matchup between Illinois and UConn. Lemont is putting a New Haven pizza. What is this? Illinois barbecue? This shit's disgusting. What? Oh, yeah. Tim Miller also railed against this, that if people really are arguing that the price of winning is becoming like a bigoted misogynist like Hassan Piker, then I'll take not winning, Jonathan Cowan told Lauren V. Egan. This seems like a bad message to me, given the state of things. The perceived incompetence discounts their cynical malice. If you think of this as third way miscalculating, you're mistaken. They know what they're doing. Trump is serving up a clear and popular anti-war pro-social services campaign for Democrats on a silver platter, and they will do anything they can to avoid that. Yeah. Because Democrats actually do, no matter how like corpo, no matter how centrist Democrats are, they actually do oftentimes present themselves as anti-Trump, right? Or they at least try to find a way to present themselves as anti-Trump. So if Donald Trump is like viciously and super vulgar in his imperialism, right? Democrats have to be against that. And therefore, they have to lean into being anti-war. Third way hates that. They don't want that. They want to make sure that Democrats are still in line with billionaires, in line with corporations. They want to make sure that the Democratic Party and the way that Democrats communicate on these issues do not, stray away or shy away from what they want, which is to keep the business as usual Kamala Harris style politics, right? It's a politics that has been a failure. It's been a failure on the politics front. It's obviously failed twice to Donald Trump, but it's also a failure to the people, right? And I'm not alone in this. This is something that I keep repeating over and over again. Something that I say all the time is look at the polls, okay? Look at the polls. Look at the way that the Democrats are being perceived right now. Look at the way the Democrats are being perceived right now. It's not popular. Here is Harry Emden talking about congressional Dems numbers with Democrats are atrociously awful, even worse among all voters. Most Dems think the party has the wrong priorities. Okay? This is a massive, massive issue. It wouldn't be an issue if the Democrats actually were responsive to the needs of the people, right? And I said, we're here because corpo centrist pro-Israel Dems believe that Trump's unpopularity will be enough to give them marginal electoral victories without having to push for material changes that address the working class needs. People want real fighters. They want real change. This is at the heart of the conversation that we've been having for the last week, right? This is the major issue. People might try to misdirect. People might try to take your attention away. They might claim that it's actually about, anti-Semitism or whatever fucking smear campaign that they're leaning into. But this, keep your eyes on the ball, okay? This is exactly the problem, okay? The guys that have caused this issue, the people that have taken control over the Democratic Party since the Clinton era, the third way neoliberals, they know that they're losing their grip. They know that they're losing their influential, their influencing capabilities, and they're losing a massive vehicle for billionaires and corporate interests to be able to continue manipulating the Democratic Party and using it in whichever way they see fit. And they're desperately swinging wildly, but because of their overall inability to read the room, because of their total lack of understanding of where people are right now, they've chosen to do this on the issue of Israel, which is a 90-10 issue. They think they can bully Democrats, and they can bully some Democrats, right? But they think they can bully all Democrats into submission to make the wrong choice.
You might say, okay, well, at least Dems like Democrats. Not the case. Look at this. The majority of Democrats are independents who lean Democrats. Look at this. 55% say no, congressional Democrats do not have the right priorities. And then you just see a minority, 45% of Democrats say that congressional Democrats have the right priorities. This, to me, just jumps out at the screen because it screams primary challenges all over the map. And it says that even if Democrats don't like Donald Trump, they don't like their own party either when it comes.
Yeah. And that's what it is. There are primary challenges, right? There are primary challenges, many of which I'm backing myself, right? Many of those primary challenges, this community is leaning into. They told us for the longest time, a lot of these liberals would say, "Oh, you and your community don't vote." That's never been the case, right? We vote. We vote. You and your community don't participate in politics. You don't understand how politics works. We do participate in politics. We do understand how politics works, right? Now that we're actually, taking advantage of the instability in an effort to put forward candidates that are more responsive to the needs of the working class, all of a sudden it's a huge deal, right? All of a sudden it's a massive deal. They're freaking the fuck out because they don't want it. They don't want people like Abdul. They don't want people like Shoykot. They don't want people like Claire Valdez. They did not want someone like Ana Lilia Mejia in New Jersey. They don't want Graham Plattner. They don't want these guys that represent a difference of opinion that want to actually do right by their constituents. They want controllable entities, right? They want controllable entities. They don't want Oliver Larkin, for example. They would much rather have someone like Moskowitz occupy that seat. And they're willing to lose elections. Okay? So it's not... the greatest example of this is Zohran Mamdani. We saw how the establishment Democrats reacted to Zohran Mamdani. They tried to get him out. When he won the primary, they didn't go, okay, it's time for vote blue no matter who. They actually turned around and tried to unseat him. They put up a right-wing opposition. They used a dynastic name in New York politics like Andrew Cuomo, in spite of the reality that he was a disgraced former governor who had to resign, right? And they were totally fine with doing that because Andrew Cuomo, in spite of his shortcomings, in spite of his awful behavior in office, is a controllable entity. he's not going to fuck the bag up. He's not going to do the right things. Like, think about it. Think about how New Yorkers perceive Zohran Kwame Mamdani right now. It hasn't been that long since he's been mayor, and his popularity's only increased. He's doing a lot. He's being a great mayor, right? First and foremost, I might have my disagreements with him every now and then, but he's just a mayor for New Yorkers, right? He's there for them. However, what would an Andrew Cuomo race look like? What would an Andrew Cuomo mayoralty look like? Business as usual, right wing, everything sucks. We got to give all the money to the police. You know, it would have been devastating, right? It would have sucked. And Democrats prefer that. Democrats prefer that because Democrats don't want to do work. They don't want someone who is going to actually be a positive example that is going to cause voters to demand more, right? They don't want someone like Zoran. They don't want 100 Zorans running and winning because that would mean all of the other Democrats that are in positions of tremendous power in the national party, those Democrats are going to have to change their attitude. They're going to have to say no to their corporate sponsors, and they're terrified of that.
To Congress and overall, I mean, my goodness gracious.
So this is sort of like Democrat on Democrat crime here. What's overall approval among Democrats of their leaders?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, you'd speak about Democrat on Democrat crime, and I want to know how unusual what we're seeing right now about how Democrats feel about Democrats in Congress is. Take a look at this. This is a trend line going back through the years, midterm elections in which there's a GOP president. Look at this. In 2006, Dems' net approval of congressional Democratic leaders was plus 28. You go back to the last midterm, look at that, plus 19. Very much on the positive side. The bottom has fallen out. The bottom has fallen out. Minus 4 points. That is Democrats' own net approval of their own congressional leaders. Even Democrats don't like their own leaders when it comes to Congress. And overall, of course, the numbers are just absolutely awful. So Democrat on Democrat crime, absolutely. This, to me, screams, again, primary challenges across the map. And it screams to me, hey, when it comes to those next leadership elections, maybe something might be cooking.
It also just means we have to maybe look at these midterms differently because this is a different prism. We haven't seen this type of thing before. We don't know what impact that might have.
That's exactly right.
This is why I said this is a phenomenal opportunity to make necessary changes in the politics of this country. The Democrats are spectacularly weak, okay? They are the weakest they've ever been at a time when they're supposed to be the strongest they've ever been, right? Unprecedented unpopularity for the president should yield tremendous popularity for the opposition party. But because they do not play that oppositional role, because they've completely ceded ground, because they're just sitting around and waiting for the Republicans to fail so that they can bring back the harm reduction arguments one more time and remind people that they are not Republicans after all. They're still marginally better than Republicans after all. That's the argument that they're trying to lean into, right? Here's the thing. This creates a tremendous opportunity for people like ourselves to run and to also win. Here's Bernie Sanders, obviously, seizing on that opportunity here. Senator Bernie Sanders is endorsing Claire Valdez for New York's 7th Congressional District, an earthquake in the commie corridor. As you guys know, Claire Valdez is a friend of the show. We are, she's part of the DSA slate, and I've already interviewed her. You can go back and watch that interview if you'd like. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think her chances are pretty good right now.
Right, and there are a lot of folks who've been looking at the generic congressional ballot and wondering why Democrats don't have a larger lead.
Yeah, chaos is everywhere on Earth. The situation is excellent. Chaos is everywhere under the sun. The situation is excellent. Okay? Here's what Claire said. 11,200 plus people funded this campaign. No corporate cash, no APAC, no real estate, no AI or crypto. I'm humbled and energized by all of you. Together, we'll prevail on June 23rd and build the movement to take on the oligarchs and deliver the dignity working people deserve. That's what Claire said. So, yeah,
And this is a big reason why, I would think.
Okay, so there's Hakeem Jeffries in the House. Chuck Schumer is the Senate Minority Leader. What might this mean for Chuck Schumer? What are some of the predictions about whether he can stay as the Democratic leader?
Chuck Schumer has been the Senate leader for the Democrats for a long period of time, before I even came to CNN, and I'm not quite sure that he will stay it. Take a look at where the people who are putting their money where their mouth is. Chance Schumer wins the next Dem Senate leader election. Back on December 1, look at this. It was 2 and 3 according to the Cash prediction market.
This person is not a fan of yours, but still defends you?
But if you care about Democratic politics, you should be deeply concerned about the smear campaign that's being perpetrated against him right now. Because for the past week, mainstream news sources and politicians have been saying that Hassan is a Muslim, vicious anti-Semite who hates America. And the only purpose of that narrative is to try to cut the left flank of the Democratic Party off at the knees, such that there is no power and influence that the left flank can have in upcoming elections, particularly in the midterms. The purpose of attacking Hassan is not just about Hassan himself, it's about people like him who would dare challenge Democrat heterodox thinking, who would dare challenge the U.S.'s relationship with Israel, who would dare challenge our blockade of Cuba, who would dare to think about a world that could exist rather than the one that does. And I need you to hear me when I say this. I am not caping for Hassan Piker. I am not caping for Hassan Piker. I'm not making excuses for him. I recognize that people don't like him. I sort of mostly feel agnostic about him, like he's fine. He has
Honestly, most of the negative things people feel about him are not valid at all. However you feel about Hassan Piker is valid, just leave that out next time, because if he's in the narrative that he's not an objectively good figure, it's just, yeah, there's so much like hatred because I've always been like a vector for all things left politics for so many years that a lot of people that are ostensibly on the left also don't realize that they're leaning into it when they do that kind of thing. And it's a self-defeating thing. Like, you're probably a lot closer, especially if you're outside of the confines of like neoliberalism and whatever the centrist establishment Democrats represent. You're probably a lot closer to my worldview than you have been led to believe. And you end up unironically engaging in that same kind of sectarian infighting because you saw something that you got baited into believing by a person who actually despises your worldview and your politics, despises our worldview and our politics. In many circumstances, it's exactly the same as what the third way is doing right now. You know, people are so aggressive in their hate for you that people feel the need to uselessly qualify their statements or just general support for what you do. Exactly. I mean, there are years and years and years of this kind of like endless barrage of hatred that I've received, and that's precisely the reason why a lot of people sometimes fall mercy to these sorts of smear campaigns. And even if they're like directly aligned with my worldview, they'll turn around and say, "Oh, I don't really understand. I'm not a big fan of this guy. I've seen some clips where he comes across not so great." You know. This is funny. Hassan Piker is the left's Candace Owens. The press treats him like a rock star. He's actually not the left's Candace Owens, a major difference being that nobody on the right listens to or courts the favor of Candace Owens. Yeah.
I don't care. This is not really about Hassan Piker. Instead, it is about the way that the Democratic Party marginalized.
You engage with a lot of right-wing critique, but never with the critique from MLs and other well-read individuals, not fond of your revisionism and constant entryism. Why is that? Because I occupy a very different lane than they do, and because I'm more successful in my initiatives than they ever will be in a country like the United States of America, at the heart of empire, where the only route to even mass class awareness, mass class consciousness has to come from taking advantage of the open electoral lane that currently exists in an objectively weak bourgeois liberal Democratic Party, and because I can't communicate with people that don't have class consciousness with dense terms that are fairly difficult to understand even for the most well-read Marxists in general. You know, seems to me the clips are the thing that are actually revisionist. That's it. We just have different methods. If you don't have, you might disagree with my methods, but at the end of the day, I think, you most likely don't understand. Your university visits are actually changing people's minds?
As is the left flank to try to undercut progress, to try to undercut more leftist progressive candidates as a way to not have to do anything different and as a way to uphold the status quo. And they are doing this in part through this rhetorical sleight of hand where they are conflating criticisms of Israel and Zionism with anti-Semitism. Those are not the same thing. And anybody with a modicum of sense can understand that. And I think that this smear campaign is relying on a really flattened understanding of what anti-Semitism actually is. And that rhetorical sleight of hand is letting people who have a vested interest in the status quo try to maintain that status quo by cutting off the knees of the left flank, by getting rid of someone who they see as a leader or a thought leader in that space. It is a very clear, at least to me, campaign that's happening. And I hope that we can all see that.
Yeah. I'm glad that this person saw it. What is this?
Okay, that kind of evolved. In person, he is very well put together. That was a very nice opportunity. Some angel just gave me a ticket. I still have no idea who you are, but thank you so much. I tried to wait around outside, but I don't know. You just came out of nowhere to just be mysterious and nice. He had a speech prepared, which felt pretty relevant for me, especially growing up in the Bay Area and tech just being such a force here. Probably just see the whole thing online, I am guessing. But it also felt really cool to just be in a room full of people who feeling the same way, who like-minded. Thank you again to the person, too, who gave their ticket. If there's an organization I could donate to, we can work that out. One more thing, too, because I feel like it's relevant, is he was talking about the importance of political education and the role that it plays. Thinking about it on my drive home, because one of the most annoying comments I got on, that video was people assuming I was apolitical because I didn't know who Hassan was, which I just feel like is so weird and dismissive. But to that extent, one thing I said in that video is a lot of my political education either came directly through people or also just actual education, like ethnic studies. So I do want to use that as an opportunity to plug the importance of ethnic studies.
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco. Also, March said that my speech was, when I write my speeches, it's like a 7.5 out of 10. If I'm well rested and I go off the top dome, it's a 10 out of 10. If I'm super tired and go off dome, it's a 6 out of 10. So he still thinks I should just freestyle rather than write a speech and then read it. All right, we're gonna move on from the Hassan Piker anti-Hassan stuff, the Hassan Piker defense. I feel like it's just such a classic repeat. I'm gonna finish this Harry Emden video, and then we're gonna. Please do not freestyle. It was so much better. I don't know. I think freestyling is my UBC speech might have been my best one still.
Drops to 56% in February, and then look at where we are right now. Just 50%. A coin toss. If I had a coin, I would toss it up in the air. A coin toss when it comes to Schumer actually winning the next Dem Center leader election. And we've seen a number of Senate candidates, Democrats, across the map saying, we don't want any part of Chuck Schumer to be the next leader. And there's a big reason why that is, and it's because at this point, look at this -4, even Democrats don't approve of their own congressional leaders.
Why are liberals freaking out about the Trump address? There was nothing in the Trump address. We're gonna do the full Trump address in a second, but obviously, first we are going to talk about the domestic instability that's taken place in the United States of America. We're talking about Trump.
Another major shift.
Seismic shift, ladies and gentlemen. As we already played the Crab Rave earlier, you already know Pamela Jo Bondi is out as the Attorney General. Let's take a look.
Wake up at the White House. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been ousted.
Let's go now to CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, tell us what you're learning. This is brand new.
Yeah, things are very fluid. They're moving very quickly, but I am told that Pam Bondi has been officially fired. She's out of her role. Now, where she goes next, that is a question mark. I was told in the meeting or in the conversation President Trump had with Bondi yesterday, he floated the idea of a judgeship as a potential landing place for Bondi. And in the interim period, while they are figuring out who is going to take over as Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will step into that role. So he will be serving in the interim. Pam Bondi, though, is out. We had already reported that she was in Florida. We have been talking about for the last several hours how in the last week, President Trump had been calling allies, asking about firing her, who should replace her. It doesn't seem as though they have someone.
Perhaps the Dow is below 50K. And that might have played a role in the Pam Bondi ouster. Who knows? Turns out, if you place a lot of emphasis on the Dow and then your president decides to blow up the energy markets, you might be the first to go. So I suspect that this is the next step, by the way. Trump weighs replacing Intel chief Tulsi Gabbard after she shielded Joe Kent, who undercut Trump's Iran war rationale. Someone's got to fall on a sword for every single thing that Donald Trump is messing up right now. I don't know who it will be for the economy. Someone's going to have to go for that too eventually. But it's clear that for the immigration stuff, the immigration panic, the anger and resentment that people felt, and the protest that they initiated, where they successfully purged ICE Gestapo thugs from Minneapolis, led the Trump administration to take the initiative and release a pressure valve. The first one was Greg Bovine Bovino, the manlet himself, and the second was Kirstie Noem, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Pam Bondi is the sacrificial lamb for the Epstein files, because the Epstein files is yet another pressure point for the admin. A lot of people are frustrated. About the Epstein files and the lack of revelation and the rollout of the Epstein files, the lack of transparency. Shouts out to Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for leading that charge. They did a phenomenal job. I mean, these sorts of things don't just happen, right? Sometimes it's good for politicians to lean into the public pressure. Sometimes if the politicians don't do that, the people will create that public pressure, as they did in Minneapolis, right? Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Michael from Taiwan. Michael refusing to call it Chinese Taipei. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. But as I was saying, Pam Bondi's disastrous performance in front of Congress, in front of that congressional hearing, I think that all but secured her demise. Trump saw that, and he thought, that's it, you're done. Now, she's in a horrible predicament regardless, because there's no one in that position that can successfully defend the Trump administration's lack of interest in identifying Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirators. Trump himself is obviously heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So she's almost in the same situation that Israel defenders are when they have to defend the indefensible, right? So that's precisely what happened here. Donald Trump made her fall on the sword, a pressure valve. There's two other areas that Donald Trump has to release pressure on as well to make it seem like he's actually responsive to the needs of the public. One of them is going to be the war in Iran, and the other is going to be on inflation. So I don't know exactly I don't know exactly how he's going to retaliate on that front, how he's going to release another pressure valve on that front as well. But Pam Bondi will be remembered as the attorney general who watched videos and saw images of powerful men raping kids and decided to protect the men is true. What? I know you hate spam, me too, but do you have any experience with Nick Land discussions or any beef? I have one, outing him out. He retweeted, zero experience, law. Sorry interrupting your explanation of what you're doing. But yeah, you have more experience, question mark? I am just no one, lol, Nick Land, ah, haha. Any experience with having beef with Nick Land? What? I have one at the moment. Please tell me. Let's work together. Okay, I don't know what that is, but good luck to you, chatter. More power to you.
Specific in mind. We know that they have floated the idea of Lee Zeldin among other people. Zeldin is currently leading the EPA, but I am told that is not a done deal. President Trump, interestingly, did issue a very flattering for President Trump's statement about Bondi last night, saying Attorney General Pam Bondi is a wonderful person and she is doing a good job. The reason that I note that is that because when we saw Kristi Noem being fired, there was none of that kind of generosity of spirit when it came to President Trump. Now, just a reminder, Bondi has a very close relationship with Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. They're both political operatives in Florida. They kind of came up together, so they have a long-lasting relationship. But President Trump had grown increasingly frustrated about a number of issues. One, didn't believe that some of the cases against his adversaries or political adversaries were being brought fast enough. He didn't believe that she had handled the Epstein files well, among other things. So we do know they had this conversation yesterday in which essentially President Trump told her that she was not long for this world, that he would eventually be replacing her. What we know now is that she has been officially fired. And again, Todd Blanche will step into that role as the deputy attorney general into an acting attorney general role.
And Kristen, this now marks the second cabinet position that Trump has fired and now has sought a replacement for within the last month. What can you tell us about Blanche himself, his relationship to Trump? Obviously, he's going to be in the acting role until a new attorney general is put in place.
Well, look, Blanche and President Trump are incredibly close. He served as his personal attorney before taking this role as the deputy attorney.
I mean, yeah, Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi are both former defense attorneys for the president, a spectacular conflict of interest for any administration. And for Donald Trump, it's just another Tuesday, right? I mean, there is such an overwhelming force of corruption in this country, in this administration, that is so transparent, so in your face, that I think most people have given up. Most people have given up on even addressing it, right? Where they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, it's unbelievable. I talked about it quite extensively in the beginning where I was like, this is ridiculous. This is the attorney general is a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. That's totally ridiculous. And the deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche, is also a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. And then I brought that back up when we were talking about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation, where former defense attorney for Donald Trump, current deputy attorney general Todd Blanche, went and had a private closed-door meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, the principal co-conspirator to the Epstein files, the only remaining alive person, basically the skeleton key for unlocking the secrets of the entire Epstein saga, right? Totally ridiculous. And they even, they transported her to a much nicer facility after that conversation took place. Like that was already an indication of where things were going to head. Of course they're going to do that, right? Of course the administration is going to do that. Especially because there's no pushback. There's not enough pushback, rather. And for many people, for ordinary Americans who are too busy trying to make ends meet, they're frustrated with all the things that they're seeing, but they also have a hard time mounting pressure consistently because there's a barrage of corruption. It's this tornado of corrupt entities coming together to pick apart America's corpse, basically. You know, it's quite difficult to deal with. And in the absence of any sort of Democratic Party organizing and taking on a leadership role in identifying what these issues are and pushing and pulling when necessary, it comes across as a rudderless movement overall. We're not as disciplined as we could be. I mean, we're all trying our best, but I will say that the Democratic Party's lack of interest, with some very notable exceptions, of course. Obviously, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie is a great example of one of those areas where they were able to lean into the public pressure campaign, and they were able to successfully get this scalp. Like, I mean, they played a big role in this. You all did as well. But this is an example that should be repeated in every single issue. Identify a problem, expose the contradictions, take advantage of the fact that people are very frustrated. If you're a politician, identify a problem, and then do everything in your power to make political changes. You know, apply legislative pressure, hold congressional hearings, right? Hey, Hassan, I know you hate spam, flirt. I do too, but did you know the Piker Broadcasting Service brings a free news experience to the people and is funded entirely by subs from you, the viewer? Yes, that's true. The Piker Broadcasting Service is funded by you, the people, for you, the people. If you'd like to fund the show, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, or with a $6 a month subscription. That's right, PBS. For tomorrow's news today. Set to it run. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs. You can also gift subs to others as well. Your subscription allows you to be able to rewind the broadcast, which is one of the amenities. You can use the emotes all around the website. And also, you get the opportunity to send me links. Russell Butt, thank you for the 5 gifted. Yeah, and Los Pipos, thank you for the 5 gifted. Are you surprised Trump did this now? I thought the Epstein file chaos had died down because of Iran. I don't think it's going away.
General. And there are a number of people who are around President Trump's orbit who have said that Blanche isn't political enough. Well, we saw Blanche taking a new role recently when he stepped out at CPAC and essentially said that everybody who had ever investigated Donald Trump or brought charges against him had been fired from the Department of Justice, making the Department of Justice clearly very political. And President Trump has liked what Todd Blanche has done. Blanche has always been kind of viewed as the person in the background making all of the mechanisms work. Now, of course, he'll be front and center, but it doesn't sound as though he's going to take this position long term, that they are going to still find a figurehead, so to speak, as the actual attorney general, but that he will be filling in the interim time period. And I do want to note, one of the things that's so fascinating about this removal of Kristi Noem and this removal now of Pam Bondi is that we spent the better part of over a year with no upheavals, with no turnover within the cabinet, and that was intentional, something that President Trump, Susie Wiles, did not want in his second term to look like a revolving door, the way it had looked in President Trump's first term. But obviously now we are entering a new phase of President Trump's presidency, with him feeling as though the people who aren't working, and he's going to get rid of them.
And Kristen, how long was this coming? Because there was a sense, certainly when Pam Bondi appeared before Congress and testified, that she was really trying to appeal to President Trump and that she might have been on thin ice at that point.
So it kind of depends on what you mean in terms of how long has this been coming, because there has been frustration with Bondi off and on since almost the beginning of President Trump's tenure, specifically when it came to the handling of the Epstein files. There was a big swath of people, and obviously we saw the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, had said that in the interview with Vanity Fair when she said the Department of Justice whiffed on the Epstein files. There was a general feeling that that was the case, and they placed a lot of that blame on Pam Bondi, not on Kash Patel or on Dan Bongino, but on the Attorney General, because she was the one who was responsible for bringing in all of those influencers and giving them those binders, if we remember that from early in the administration. She was also the one who said on Fox News that she has the Epstein files on her desk and she'd be releasing them soon. All things that put everybody into a tight spot and then caused enormous amount of problems down the road. But when it comes to actually replacing her, what we're told is that in January, this started becoming a real conversation, that the names started floating around as to who would potentially replace her. Now, that had died down a little bit, and then in the last week ramped back up. And I'll tell you, I was getting calls and text messages from people who aren't in the administration, who don't work at the White House, who were saying that they were hearing it. And they were hearing it because President Trump was making calls really starting on Monday, asking allies what they think about the fact that he might replace her, who should replace her, what does this actually look like? And that is when we really saw, obviously, all of this kind of snowball leading to a conversation between the two of them and then her ultimate firing.
Kristen, please stand by for us. We have some extra voices to add to the conversation. Evan Perez, Jeff Zeleny, and Ellie Honig are with us. Evan, first to you. You could see this coming, but we weren't sure. Earlier, it was described as a gray area that she was in, that she might be able to salvage her job. Clearly, she couldn't.
Right. I mean, look, Kristen is what Kristen describes is what we've all been going through since January when these rumors first came up. It appeared that the president might actually do it in January, and then it died away. And we, as you know, from covering the Trump administration, you just never know whether it's real, whether there's just a faction inside the White House. They spend a lot of time knifing each other, and so we never know it's real until the president actually latches onto it. And so that's when it really became, it appears, a lot more real this week, when he was seeming to take action to try to find some names of some possible replacements.
It is interesting that it was Pam Bondi that ate the axe here. And I do think it's because he really did not like her performance, specifically in front of Congress. Right? Because, like, how do you not cut Kash? I think Kash is one of the least popular figures in the admin. And he is largely seen as, like, the responsible figure for messing up the Charlie Kirk stuff. There's no threat. I mean, there is no... no one trusts him, right? Like, he is not a trustworthy figure at all. I mean, I know he's loyal, but so is Pam Bondi, right? Kash is a keeper. You're talking crazy. Kash is a jester, bro. He wrote a kiss ass book for Trump. I mean, so is Pam. Like, okay, chat. Every single person that we're talking about in this administration is in that position that they're in currently because they've ass-kissed Donald Trump. There's not a single person that's in that position due to competence. They're all there for loyalty. That's always been the case since day one. We already know that, right? So it's actually surprising that Donald Trump would axe Pam Bondi, who is seemingly a little bit more competent than Kash Patel and just as loyal as Kash is. And I guess it's because of that televised congressional hearing. He really did not like that.
For Bondi, what we've seen is she's taken a different tack from what we've seen in the previous administration, the first Trump administration, when Bill Barr and Mike Pompeo fell out of favor. You know, one of the things they did was they avoided Trump. They just reduced their amount of exposure to him as a way to sort of like let him sort of calm down. Bondi has taken the opposite tack. She has spent a lot more time with him. She seemed to try to be more present as a way to ingratiate herself with the president. In the end, it did not work. And really, the original sin goes back to February of last year, when she orchestrated that event at the White House with these binders with documents that were years old. They'd been in the public sphere for years, and she didn't seem to know that. She didn't know that. And at that time, if you remember, the administration is new in office. There is really no constituency. There was nobody demanding the Epstein files. And she created this event out of nowhere. No one really was expecting that. And so they have not been able to live down that moment since. And the damage to the president because of that, I think, has been incalculable because, MAGA base has not let it go.
She wasn't the president's first choice for this job. Let's remember, it was Matt Gaetz who could not be confirmed. That was not going to fly. And now I wonder, Jeff, how tough it is going to be to confirm someone to replace her, considering.
What do the MAGA folks think about these types of things, these firings? Do they just believe that Trump is always right and he must have had a great reason to fire her? Yes. But I also don't. These past couple of days, we have perhaps been too focused on. Hold on. These past couple of days, we have perhaps focused too much on situation monitoring and not enough on how the Trump, the MAGA movement is coping with this stuff. I mean, they're a cult, so they're obviously going to always agree with Donald Trump first and foremost. But obviously, this is any kind of initiative that Trump takes, any kind of move that Trump makes like this, he's doing it with the base in mind. I do wonder how they. I do wonder how they communicate. I do wonder how they defend this kind of stuff. I guess for them, it's like, oh, yeah, thank God he got rid of the perfidious Pam Bondi. She was the one who was rat fucking the admin. Maybe she was the reason why we couldn't get the Epstein files, out on time in a timely manner. I don't know. I don't know. You have to, I guess, for some... to develop a better appreciation, develop a better understanding, we got to do hogwatch, right? We haven't really done enough hogwatch as of late, because I've been too busy, covering the actual news and also simultaneously having to deal with hogs in our own ranks, right? The ostensibly left flank hogs, the centrist right-wing Democrats. So I don't know what the Asmin Goy team is saying.
There are a number of senators. She and Kash Patel were put in their positions with promises of not going to retaliate or use DOJ or the FBI to go after President Trump's enemies. And yet we've seen that is exactly what it has been used for. So I wonder how difficult this process will be to find someone to replace her.
I think the confirmation process will be very difficult and dramatically different from what we've just seen with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen. Even if a senator happens to be chosen, and if you have been mentioned possibly, one is going to be very reluctant to accept this position because Attorney General is different than every other position in the cabinet. And there's
what is this? MAGA mom has been saying she wants Bondi fired to atone for Epstein. Boomer MAGA will be all over the moon with this. Interesting. I guess for them, they see this as a much needed respite. Maybe they see this as the administration being responsive to their needs. Perhaps maybe that's the case.
Enough muscle memory now, beginning with Jeff Sessions, who could not be any more loyal initially until he fell out of favor because he recused himself. And that's something that the president still has in mind. A, he will choose someone who will never recuse themselves from anything. So I think that these confirmation hearings for the next attorney general will be dramatically different, largely because of what Evan was saying, everything that has been learned over the last year. The Epstein files are not going away now. That genie is well out of the bottle, regardless of who the attorney general is. So I think it's very difficult. But to your point, I was thinking the exact same thing. She was not his first.
It's so funny that the MAGA cult is, I mean, I guess they are doing the good czar, bad boy R's, right? In their minds, they're thinking Donald Trump is this infallible deity, this figure that is the best hero to champion all the causes that they care about. They don't understand that, like, Pam Bondi was in that position for her utmost loyalty to Donald Trump. And that the only reason why she came across as like inconsistent or bad on the Epstein stuff was because of Donald Trump's demands. Donald Trump put her in this bind. Donald Trump put her in this indefensible position where she had to sit there and defend it. Asmongold reacts to Pam Bondi's national crash out. Yeah, I remember him saying this.
People voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
Honestly, Donald's got to get rid of this bitch. He does. Like, one of the best things he could do is just say, like, listen, like, we tried, we did what we needed to do. You know, we thought that she'd be able to do it, and it turns out.
Do what? Like, release the Epstein files while also simultaneously sheltering all the co-conspirators, including people like Donald Trump? Like, I despise her, but I also despise Donald Trump. That's the morally consistent position, right? Because Pam Bondi is a mere expression of the desires of Trump. That's why she was the attorney general. So it just doesn't make sense that these guys will be like, yeah, Pam Bondi is like singularly responsible for not releasing the Epstein files. As a matter of fact, it's all entirely in her hands, right?
A choice. He knew her well, obviously. She was involved in the campaign from Florida. Wasn't inherently a political years ago, became very political. But she was not, she was chosen because she would be reputable and pretty easy to be confirmed after Matt Gaetz. So it's going to be fascinating to see who the president picks. Lee Zeldin is one of the leading contenders, a former member of Congress, different for a House member than a senator we've seen over the years here. So the confirmation process.
Why would anyone take this position? You know your ass is just going to get cooked in congressional hearings 24/7. There's no other alternative, you know. That's just, it is what it is. I mean, these guys are brown nosers. They get a tremendous amount of time in front of cameras. They elevate their platform. They know. Look, I don't think anyone is so stupid that they think Trump is not eventually going to use them as a sacrificial lamb when things get hot. Okay? Michael Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. When Donald Trump lost the election, he decided to lie and say that the election was stolen from him. And they looked for a way to seize control over the government and deny the democratic outcomes in 2020. Okay? One of the things that they thought they could do is maybe identify this like totally procedural, ceremonial a process that Mike Pence was overseeing. They wanted to pressure Mike Pence to stop the authorization of all the votes that were coming in, right? That's January 6th. Mike Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. Donald Trump literally goaded his fans to go and do an insurrection where they were demanding to assassinate his vice president. Okay? So if Donald Trump will demand or play a role in the attempted hanging of his vice president, what makes you think the attorney general is going to be free of such scrutiny? Right? It's totally ridiculous. Donald Trump has a track record of consistently firing people. whenever he wants to shift the blame away, shift the attention away from himself and his shortcomings. I think everyone that's in this administration is aware of that, right? They just think it'll be someone else holding the bag. Seems to me like Tulsi Gabbard might be next.